watching the sunrise on my adventure map. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Talon55, and today I'm going to do a video I haven't really done in a little while. I think the last thing I did was okay, so basically this is my Plight of Galvonia adventure map. It is a role-playing adventure map that I've been working on for a little while now. By a little while I mean a very long time. But with the new command blocks, it's gotten to the point where I can't justify continuing to use, due to numerous problems in addition to the new command blocks actually, I have removed all the command blocks from underneath this map and have decided to redo them all from scratch, trying to recreate the functionality I had in the past. I do have a backup of the world, but I would prefer not to, but I'm only keeping that for reference and for in an emergency when I realize I needed to keep something around. For now though, I'm just going to be recreating all the command blocks from scratch, and I figured because of that I can go ahead and record myself doing it and do a few tutorials. So just for this first episode, I'm going to be going ahead and showing off what I have so far. Not very much, as you can see. I have a city and some buildings in it. It's, in general, the basis of the map is, it's very much an RPG as you would find, excuse me, an RPG as you would find in a number of other standalone games, as opposed to a very, instead of a Minecrafty feel to it. Now, the characters, bad guys, etc. are all going to be based off of the game Minecraft, obviously, but the story itself is going to be filled with RPG elements, role-playing elements. So, some background. This is set around the capital city, more of a city-state actually, with a few farms and stuff around it, which goes by the name of Galvonia. Random name I came up with one day. Felt like it was a good name. Anyway, so the Plight of Galvonia is, this city-state is under attack from their enemies, which in this case is the Wither King. Now, as I said, it's going to be full of Minecraft story elements, bad guys and such, but I'm hoping to create a completely different feel for it, or one with more distinct individual characters. But for now, I'm mainly going to be working on the main gameplay elements. I had these functional before, but the old command blocks caused too much lag for me to be able to use this in a multiplayer world. This is actually my Minecraft server that I run. So I do have some stuff. Obviously, the infrastructure is left over from the old map. I still have all the builds and such, but currently there is no. There are very few command blocks. Like, this is one of the few things I've converted to the new system. It's a wizard tower, which is bigger on the inside. Again, as I said, not a whole lot of command blocks actually right now. Taking advantage of some of the new features to cut down the command blocks. For example, those are end gateway portals. But in general, I'm going to be starting from scratch. I can't reiterate that enough. I have very little stuff. If I go ahead and teleport to my command blocks, you'll find that I've got some animation frames that I still haven't synced up to their locations. I have a couple of dungeons. I have the mage tower teleportation. I have some particle effects, and I have some back-end stuff that you won't see the effect of until later. So for now, I've got pretty much a clean slate down here in the command blocks, which are directly below the center of Galvonia, on the spawn chunks. So this is very much going to be a tutorial series as well as just a progress update series. That's pretty much all. I think I should probably jump into the actual important getting stuff done part of the series. So, yeah, let's jump into that now. So to start, we need a way of controlling the way that the weather is using scoreboard objectives. So we can set an objective to a certain value and have it control the way that the command blocks behave when interacting with weather, for example. So again, to start, we're going to be doing some management tools. So let's start with weather control. So let's see. You need a conditional command block, which so this is going to test for an objective, and this is going to conditionally, if that objective is true, if that score for the objective is true, we're going to want to ensure that the weather is set to the proper value. So for this conditional chain one, we want scoreboard, and since it's attached to a repeater command block, it'll be repeated every time the purple one is true. The conditional green one will run as well, and the purple one will repeat 20 times a second, just like full clocks used to. So scoreboard. Scoreboard. Let me look at some command references so far. Scoreboard. Players. Test, I believe. Yeah, there we go. So it's scoreboard. Players. Test. And then we need a fake player name. Let's just call that console. Or maybe global. Yes, global. And then we need an objective, which would be weather, just to keep things simple. Scoreboard objectives test global weather. Scoreboard players test global weather 0, 0. So if it's a minimum of 0 or a maximum of 0, it'll be it'll return a true value. Okay. Scoreboard. I'm sorry. This isn't a scoreboard one. This is a weather clear. So if there is a value of 0 for the in the weather score for the player global, then weather will be clear. So let's go ahead and create the objectives we need. That would be scoreboard objectives. Not set this. Excuse me. I'm used to using set displays to. Anyway, sorry. Scoreboard objectives add weather. I'm sorry, weather dummy, and we'll display it as capitalized because, you know, weather. So if it is tested and displays true for, oh, I'm sorry, this still says needs redstone, always active. There we go. Global doesn't have a weather score yet, so we're gonna go ahead and set that to 0 manually. Scoreboard players set weather 0. I'm sorry, scoreboard players set global weather 0. Alright, so score 0 is in range 0, 0, and that should return true here, which means it should be clear weather. If I TP up to the surface real quick, and I tried to set it manually to rain, /weather rain, you'll notice nothing happens, because down there it is currently setting it because the score is 0. Now if I set it to 1, I don't have it configured to manually set to automatically set it to a different, for example, rain, so it doesn't change. But now I should be able to change it to rain. Indeed, I can. So if I set it back to 0, it clears it automatically. Okay, pretty simple. But what we want is to be able to adjust it manually using for cutscenes, etc., and just for story elements, also to prevent it from raining while I'm building. So let's go back to the command blocks, and we are going to go ahead and do the exact same thing for all 3 main weather types: clear, rain, and thunderstorm. Last I checked, there was still a bug where skeleton horsemen would continue to spawn in thunderstorms, even if game rule mob spawning is false. So it's maybe a problem we encounter, but I hope it's fixed. It'll very, very likely be fixed. It'll very likely be fixed by the time we have 1.9 full release. So anyway, we're just gonna copy and paste this and change the values. So if its weather is 1, it'll do a certain thing. If its weather is 2, it'll do a different thing. So for 1, we're gonna go ahead and do weather rain, and for weather 2, we're just gonna do weather thunder. Yeah. And we can go ahead and test that real quick. Let me just go ahead and teleport back up. Whoops, sorry. Teleport up to teleport to Galvonia, and then we go ahead and do slash weather. Scoreboard players set global weather 1, and you notice it starts raining. 2, in a moment we should see some thunder. No? There we go. And then we're just going to set back to 0 for the remainder of the series, unless we're working on a cutscene. So, yeah. I still haven't sorted out exactly how to use all the new command block tools. There are a very large number of them, and so far people have only scratched the surface of what they're capable of. Big shout out to Sarge. He really struck gold for map makers in this one. There have been, a big factor that prevented me from releasing this map and stopped my progress on it was that I couldn't deal with the lag that was produced in multiplayer specifically when fill clocks and all were running. This area was covered in command blocks. I'll probably put a snapshot somewhere. I'm sorry, a screenshot in the video somewhere. Anyway, covered in command blocks, and that was enough to cause a lot of lag. Anyway, so we've now sorted out our weather system. It's always best to label your command blocks. So, weather. Now, another very basic and very fundamental system I put in all my adventure maps, as if I have very many. But no, in general, it's very important to have a way to control what groups you're in, so that you can control who has operator commands and who doesn't. Or rather, who has creative mode and who doesn't, sorry. Which includes operators and stuff for being able to build on spawn chunks. So, I'm not sure exactly how to do this. I had a functional in my last one, but not... Anyway, sorry. We'll put the chain command block here. Let's go ahead and put it... I'm sorry, not chain. Repeat command block. And we're going to go ahead and... what we're trying to do here is we're executing... Okay, let me clarify. So, our goal is to make it so that people with a certain scoreboard score are allowed to change their game mode, whereas other people are forced into adventure mode, along with being put in the proper group. For example, if you look at the top, it says, my name is in red, and it says admin. That means that you can't manually you can't detect an operator. That would be a cool thing if you could, but since you can't, obviously you can manually set people. But people who are in what I call debug mode or building mode, okay, are given the ability to change their game mode, whereas everyone else is set to adventure mode, if that makes any sense. You'll see. So to start, we need a scoreboard objective. So let's just autocomplete all the way back up to objective add player. I use this objective for various things, so in general, I just use the player objective, and then and depending on what score you have, it also affects your ability to be a player. So it's complicated. I'll explain later. So I add the player score, I add the objective player, which is a dummy, and I just call it player. And then I go ahead and okay. What I typically do is I say scoreboard players set all players whose score in player is a minimum of -1, and whose score player equals -1. So players with a score of -1 are given, scoreboard teams join admin all players score player. Okay, that way, I'm sorry. Again, I'm not technically starting from scratch because despite deleting all the objectives, still have all the teams. So if I do scoreboard teams list, you'll see players, spectators, and monsters and admins are now okay. Those are the teams that are available. There are 4 of them. So monsters, I want so that monsters don't accidentally attack each other. But admins and players are the important ones. Players will be forced into adventure mode, and admins will not be. Admins will have freedom of game mode. So if I go ahead and I make it so that all players who have a player score of -1 join the admin group, then I can, in fact, ensure that players' scores are proper. So if I scoreboard players set tall 155, player -1. No message. I have command feedback turned off so that just for personal preference. But if it basically if it's turned off, it means that if it doesn't give you feedback, it means it ran successfully. So it still gives you error messages, which is nice, but yeah. Anyway, so if I try to leave the team admin, scoreboard teams leave admin. Oh, hold on. Is that lowercase? Okay, yeah. Scoreboard teams leave admin. I'm sorry. Leave tall 155. It ran successfully. Did I set my player score to -1? I did. So let's... Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't set to always active. So it won't let me join the team admin. This is interesting. After a brief little, like, 5-minute trip, I realized typos. So, for those of you wondering why their command block contraptions don't work, yeah, typos. Now let's make sure that if you see that flickering up, if I hold tab long enough, you'll see it. If you try to add someone to a team they're already on, it'll briefly for a moment flicker there. So to get rid of that, you need to team equals not admins. So if your team isn't admins, that's what the exclamation mark means beforehand. Team equals not admins. So if you're not on the admin team already, and your score is -1, it will add you to the team admins. If it is, if you are on the team admin, it won't add you, but if you are not, and your score is the proper one, you will be added to it. So that's good. So we're just going to copy and paste that into this one. Excuse me. So yeah, if the player score is 0, then it'll add you to the team, and you're not in this team spectators. It will add you to spectators. All right. And so if I set my, if I go ahead and change my player score to 0, you'll notice that yet again I have problems because I probably didn't look. Let's see. Spectators is the proper name. We don't have a typo this time. It did in fact set it to 0, but let's see why. Oh, I apologize. I yet again made a mistake. There we go. It wasn't on always active. Anyway, there we go. So you'll notice for those of you wondering how I have a prefix on a vanilla server, there's a video by Dragnoz which is extremely informative about this. I used an external editing tool called NBT Explorer. I'll link the video by Dragnoz in the description. Very useful and helpful. But I'm now a spectator, air quotes. But there's currently no system which puts me in spectator mode if I'm on the team spectator. So I will I'll work on that. We're gonna add that later in the video. Copy paste. This time we're gonna remove the maximum value, and we're gonna set the minimum value to 1. So if your score is minimum 1 and you are not on the team players you will be added to the team. Players. Alright. And if I set my score to 1, I'm now an adventurer. If I set it to 0, I'm now a spectator. If I add it to -1, I am now an admin. Very nice and simple. Seamless change. And now all we want to do is scoreboard objectives are more easily handled than scoreboard scores are more easily handled than teams, which is why I don't just have it automatically set your team instead of a command blocks which set your score to a team. It's you can have maximum, minimum, not instead of having to include multiple command blocks for multiple scores. For multiple teams, you can instead just have one, which uses a maximum and a minimum value. This will be useful later on. Anyway, so as I was saying, now we have all of our seamless transitions between this. But right now, all it is cosmetic. There's no real change in how it affects your team. I'm sorry, not your team. How it affects your game. What purpose you have. So let's set up some game mode changing blocks. So the only one that will only change your stuff once is the one that changes admins. Yeah, I'm just gonna build and you guys can pay attention. Sorry, again not used to explaining stuff. So what we do is we've just copied this to here so it happens second. We change it to a chain command block. Sorry, chain. And then we set a new repeating command block here, which does, the order is very important. I'm sorry, this one will detect a score, do something with it, and then add you to the team. And then you'll have it so the people who aren't on the team, just like this one, you exclude people who are already on the team. So scoreboard, I'm sorry if my explanation isn't very fluid. I'm, again, not used to this. I'm sure that it will get better with time. So, as I was saying, you're adding people to it. Yes, you want to change game mode. So, game mode, it's game mode value player. So it's game mode, in this case, creative 1, or C, or whatever you use. I use the numbers typically. Game mode 1, all players whose score player min is equal to 1. I'm sorry, -1. Score player is equal to -1. So people who have just been added to the people who've just had their scoreboard objective changed, people who've just had their score set to debug mode but have not yet received a team. So people also just like this one, people who are still not on admins. So people who aren't on the admins team but do have the score that will, in this next command block in the sequence, make you an admin. Okay? So let's try this out real quick. If I can still change my game mode to a different one. But if I go to, for example, if I set my player score to 0, I haven't set the game mode for other things, so my game mode won't change. But if I set my game mode to 2, and then I set my score back to -1, it will set me to creative mode once, and then I can continue changing my game mode. Yeah, I just set my player score, not my game mode. Sorry. -1. Okay. It set me to creative mode once I changed, and then if I go game mode 0, I can still change within debug mode, but it'll set me to creative once. Sorry, we're copying this game mode command in the back, not the one in the front here. Always active. Yeah. Conditional, I think? No, unconditional. Because, yeah. Okay, game mode 1. For this one, this is spectator mode. So it's game mode 3. All players with a score of 0. Whose team... Okay, game mode 3. All players whose score is 0. And then just in case... we'll put the team to, we'll set the team to, yeah, spectators. It's always best to be precise with your commands, so that later you don't wonder why something's affecting something it shouldn't, because you weren't specific enough. So we'll just copy and paste this command into here, which should just change this to a minimum. Remember, we're moving the maximum value so that we can have player scores higher than 1, which will again come into play later from experience. Team equals players. The player score minimum equals 1. Team equals players will be set to adventure mode, which is game mode 2. Game mode 0 is survival, for those of you wondering. So, let's go ahead and check. Let's go ahead and test this out. So game mode 0. I'm still an admin, so I can still do whatever I want with my game mode. You'll notice no difference between survival and spectator, survival and adventure at first, except that obviously I can't break blocks. Creative switches me back to creative, and spectators back to spectator. So that's nice. That's working. Now, if I'm in creative and I change to my player score to 0, I'm suddenly in spectator. And if I try to change to creative, game mode 1, you'll notice I'm still in spectator. Can't change that. Tags proper and everything. So that's good. That works properly. And if I change to my player score to 1, I'm now in adventure mode. Can't break blocks. And if I try to change, well, you wouldn't notice change except for there's no outline blocks now. Or yeah, I cannot change. There's no visible change because it changes it too quickly with these command blocks. So there we go. We now have weather control and we now have game mode control. Those are both very important for any basic adventure map from the beginning. So we're just gonna go ahead. I'm in adventure mode. There we go. If I go back to player -1, I'm now in creative, and I can just label this game mode control. Weather control, game mode control, very basic. I have these in virtually every adventure map, and they are now very nice and simple, so that's good. I can control weather with score. Basically, it's very just the idea of having control of your entire adventure map with nothing but scoreboard variables. You run a variable and it automatically executes the relevant branch of command blocks. Very nice. You can manually change things. You don't need to rely on triggering things through other means like redstone circuitry. Very, very simple. You can, in fact, I've also found that animations are best controlled through a scoreboard variable. And with the new conditional command blocks, comparators and their various lag and other various causes of lag are now a thing of the past. So yeah, lots of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful changes. Again, huge thank you to Sarge. Sarge has made everybody's lives a ton easier, both the players and builders of adventure maps. So those are some nice changes right there. Beautiful, beautiful changes.